Welcome back to North Node Astrology, and today I'm going to be getting into the insurance thing that happened on the 4th. The CEO of United Healthcare was killed before he was going to go in for a meeting. Lots of weird stuff going on. I'm not going to get into that, but I'm going to get into insurance and maybe the general broad spectrum of why the person that killed him did it. So, first you have to understand people, and then you have to understand doctors, and then you have to understand insurance. So, hopefully I can do this very quickly. There are really three signs, almost four, that are at play here with the killing of the UHA CEO. And the signs that we're looking at are Aquarius, and I have that chart up now. We're going to look at Scorpio because Scorpio is about insurance. And we're also going to look at Sagittarius. A lot of people think that doctors are either Capricorn or Virgo because medicine it falls under Virgo, but because becoming a doctor, you basically do an apprenticeship, and it is a long-term thing. It typically is a family thing. Like if you have doctors in your family, there's going to be a lot of doctors in your family, or they might be medical personnel, right? But those things they'll fall under professions, and most professions do fall under the sign of Sagittarius. So we're going to look at that as well as Capricorn because it just fits well into this. So for this chart, now I'm going to put up the rulerships here so that we can see the planets that are involved and look at why people were probably upset and why a lot of people are being very cold about the killing of this man. So Pluto ruling Scorpio up there in the 10th house, and the 10th house is always emotionally reserved because it has the Capricorn vibe to it. It has the feel to it. It is long-term stability, and it's about institutions, right? So we're talking about, for humanity, we're talking about the institution of fame, right? Or the concept of being emotionally repressed, right? Because when you see somebody out in public, this is also about authenticity, right? Scorpio is about authenticity, and in general, and so is Aquarius. Aquarius is about authenticity. So you can either hide yourself in public or you can, be authentic, and that's probably going to be shocking. But if people know you, it's not going to be shocking. That is that they have put in that emotional layer of trust with you, which is what Scorpio is about. It's about layers of trust. And they're not shocked by it. And they'll be like, oh my God, and then you might say something shocking, to other people. They might clutch their pearls, but because you're solid friends with them, 9th house Libra, you're going to laugh at that and be in the 11th house in Sagittarius, a joke. You're going to understand, oh my God, that could have been shocking, but I know this person, so it's funny, right? Because humor is also Sagittarius. And a good doctor is probably going to be funny, right? So, yeah. Since we need to talk about insurance, here's the Scorpio chart. This is just the same chart that I showed before with Aquarius in the 1st house. Now we've rotated it 4 signs, backwards. So we're looking at how insurance actually works, right? So the mind of insurance, the mind of even investing, is the 3rd house, is Capricorn. So we are thinking about and making decisions about stability. We are looking at the structure, and we are seeing what can we continue on, yes or no, or do we need to make 90-degree turns? Do we need to make changes? Do we need to make drastic changes, right? We're just looking at the stability and we're making decisions about stability. So because this is Scorpio, you can't exactly look directly at it. It's kind of like Pisces. You can't look directly at Pisces either because there's too much going on. But so with Scorpio and these decisions that we're making in Capricorn, we also need to look at the decisions that are made in Gemini, because that's the sign in general of decisions, of communication, of writing. Okay. So we are writing a contract. We are trusting the things that we write, and we're trying to build stability or foundation, right? And if we get that right, then it ultimately goes back to that 12th house in Libra, which is fairness and balance and justice and relationships, right? Because Scorpio and these insurance is about relationships, the relationship between you and the money that somebody else is going to put in, right? So you are putting your capital in, right? In Capricorn, third house, you were making a decision, right? And then in the eighth house in Gemini, you are actually making that investment, but it's trickling. It's a little investment, right? So that's an individual investment. The second house is where anything of value actually is. It's where the value of the thing is. It doesn't matter what sign we're talking about, whether it's a natal chart, doesn't matter. The value of the thing is always in the second house. Now, for insurance, the value of the thing is long term. It is Sagittarius. It is, and you can look at it as opposite that sign of Gemini, and it is many people that are paying, or that are trusting and paying in. Okay. And it is also the growth of that, right? So it has to grow, it has to expand. And when we looked at the Aquarius chart, and I can pop back to that now. So the Aquarius chart shows Sagittarius as the 11th house, as the peoples, right? As the ideals, as the populace. So and I'll leave it on the Aquarius chart now, for Scorpio, for insurance, it needs a population. It needs a population. And so these things do move back and forth, and they when you start to understand how the relationship of all the signs work together. So, and this is why when you make certain decisions in your life, other decisions are already made or going to be made in a similar way, because sometimes when you make a single decision, you don't realize how many places that one decision will end up going. This is why. Because when you make a decision in Aquarius to go along with something, to just kind of going along with the vibe, you don't understand that when you start looking at Scorpio, the decision that you made in Aquarius is the anchor point for Scorpio, is that home space. Now, you might be able to disassociate from it, which is, where emotional disassociation, which is where, Scorpio tends to go at home, or with things of an emotional nature. They tend to, are you close enough? Is that close enough? How close can you be to something, right? That's the layers. And just because you only see those two wavy lines in Aquarius doesn't mean there's not, a million lines over and under those two lines. There's layers. It's the vibration, right? You throw a rock into a lake and it just sends ripples out, and it's not one ripple, it just ripples and ripples and ripples and it just keeps going, right? That's what the ocean is. It's that constant rippling motion. It's the motion on the surface. And Scorpio is just like that. So looking at insurance, they need your input so that they can expand and grow. Now, where their losses occur, losses are part of the life of insurance. It's part of it. That's the fifth house in Pisces, right? That is the loss of it. That's what happens. So then what Scorpio has to do is its job is it goes and it's like, okay, we have a loss here. What are we going to do about the loss? We have to create, we have to seek it. We have to find some value. So it goes up to the seventh house. Value is always Taurus, is always the second house. So now we're talking about, for Scorpio, we're talking about value in Taurus, and we're talking about value in Sagittarius, because that's that second space, that second sign, all right? So they've had a loss in the fifth house, they've had a loss in Pisces, now they need to go find more. They have to go find, and with Mars in Leo, they have to go find more people. They have to go find more population, right? So now you have to create a relationship. You have to make something pretty. You have to go, hey, if you come here with us, you can be safe as one of our people, right? That's that fourth house Aquarius. You can be safe here as one of our people. You can be in the vibration with us. But if you want to do that, you have to come into our building, third house, Capricorn building. You have to come into our establishment and you have to sign. Again, that's third house signing things. And then the money, and then if you realize the value in Taurus in that relationship, you will put the money in Gemini. So we're moving around back and forth. And the inherent problem that a lot of systems are falling under, and where we are looking at trust, in a trusting space, especially with Pluto now in Aquarius, right? We were thinking about trust, and now we're feeling about trust with Pluto now in Aquarius. We're trying to figure out where the fine line is between thinking about trust and feeling about trust, because you have to do both, right? And the rulers of Aquarius is Saturn, that's in Pisces currently, so you're making the connection or not. And then Uranus, the planet that people think more about with Aquarius, is in Taurus, and that's about values. It's about relationships, right? And Venus is in Capricorn. How long have you been making these relationships? How long have you had these values? And yesterday morning, the moon was in Capricorn, so it was a mental separating of emotion, right? And somebody did not, so you've got the moon and Venus and Pluto together, but Pluto's in Aquarius. Any of the signs can be about endings. Any of the signs can be about death. And with a mental and emotional separation with the moon and Venus because of Aquarius, because of Pluto in Aquarius, somebody made a decision. They made a decision to end someone's life because of something they were thinking. Because of, and with the third house being there in Capricorn, and with Saturn ruling Capricorn, this is not a new thing. It was not a new situation. It was not something they had just thought of, right? Saturn also in square to the Sun, and the Sun being in Sagittarius, this is about, and somebody might have done this for the collective. It may not have been something that they did, just because of them. It might have been because of the collective, or it might have been insurance is wrong. Insurance has been doing things wrong. They've not been upholding their relationships and valuing the people. And this is why I say one of the darkest signs in the zodiac is not Scorpio, it's not Aquarius. Leo can be one of the darkest signs. It really can be. Because if something doesn't have life, because if you do a contract correct, you're stabilizing life. If you're doing insurance correctly, you're stabilizing life. But if you don't do it right, you're making life cold. You're making it emotionally distant. And that is the worst place for Leo to be. Leo, Scorpios want to lead. They do want to lead, but they have to be authentic. They have to get up there and they have to shine. And if it's a dark shine, if it's a heavy shine, and if they're being nihilistic, it can be very difficult. But hopefully they have made the emotional decision, they've calmed themselves, and now they're trying to create stability. And I think this may be one of the underlying psychological, subconscious things that the killer did. They were trying to ultimately create stability by, Mars in the 10th house there, and ending, in opposition to Pluto and Venus and the moon down there, that cold decision. They're like, okay, well, I'm going to be cold too. That's a bad way to go. This is the dark side of things. So all these signs very much, hopefully I expressed how insurance works. And now next I'm going to go into the Sagittarius portion and explain how the doctoring portion of it works. All right, here is the Sagittarius chart for that same moment. And this is how really any trade works, any tradesman, right? They are known, the 10th house again, this is what they're seen for. They are seen as working, right? But it's not just Virgo, it's not just daily work. It is stabilizing foundations. It is stabilizing daily life. It's stabilizing all kinds of things, but you have to work at it. It's something that has to be done every day, right? So doctors, and I'll shift back to Scorpio real quick. We already talked about how Scorpio was the insurance. Well, the 12th house for any sign, the one sign before, can either charge you up or it can tear you down, right? It's the end, right? So when, let's say you take a test, right? You've been studying something. Let's use Sagittarius. You've been studying, and what you're doing is, in the 3rd house, you are trying to align your brain waves with the information that's coming in, right? You are using Gemini to balance your mind. And this is one of the reasons why people say when you write things down, because what does Aquarius look like in this context? In the 3rd house, it looks like scribbling, right? Like doctors writing things down. And I asked a friend of mine that's in a doctorate program, if they had if they thought anything about the correlation between a doctor's handwriting and being a good doctor or not. But so when you write things down, it tends to level out the information, and then you can kind of vibe with it, right? Because that's what you are getting in tune with it. All right. And because these are elder signs, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and even to the point Libra is, and anything after Libra is an elder sign, all the way through Pisces. It takes longer. And this is, Sagittarius takes a long time. It takes a lot longer than most things, because it's taking somewhere between 27 to 30 years to stabilize that 2nd house and value systems. You're also using the institutions as your value. You are valuing the institutions. You're valuing the things that have been done for longer than 27 to 30 years. So you're learning those things, and it takes a while to learn them. All right. And so you go, okay, well, who is Sagittarius's mentor? Who is, who's teaching Sagittarius? Well, and this is one of the reasons why they call doctors, why they have a practice, right? Because when you're practicing things, what are you doing? You're doing it every day. And perfect practice makes perfect, right? Imperfect practice makes imperfect. So if you were stabilizing, if you were seen, right, as be somebody out there working in Virgo in the 10th house, you are stabilizing. It's an earth sign, right? It's in an earth house, 10th house, Capricorn kind of vibes. So you're stabilizing your work, you're stabilizing your practice, and you are communicating to people. You're learning to communicate, you can separate the emotion of what you're doing, third house, you're talking to people. You're with the people every day. You're with wherever you are, you're around people, right? And also the technology. You go into the hospital, what's in there? All the beeping, all the machines, and so there's lots of layers here. So we look at, again, let's go back to Scorpio and go back to the element of either charging something up or tearing something down, right? So studying for the test, you've put in the time, right? You've put in the Capricorn, and that's time. And it's also, in this context, it's also Virgo. You've done the work, right? That 10th house Virgo, you've done the work. And out in public, you have gotten the ideals, right, of fairness, of, you have understood what was going, what a daily practice of a doctor is, or what the information is. And then when you either know it or you don't, you might have fear about it. There might be some subconscious fears you have about it, but if you can put that emotionality aside, right? Or if you're a doctor, this is also surgery. Like when you go into surgery, things can be miraculous. You go in there like, oh wow, I had a friend recently who had a hip replaced. The surgeon went in, did it quick, out, because they had practiced it, right? Taurus, they had done it slow many times, and because they had done it slow many times, their hands were steady, their hands were balanced, and so nothing happened, nothing abnormal happened. They didn't die. Now my friend is up walking around, and it's miraculous, right? There's a transformation because of the surgery, right? In Sagittarius, that belief, is things can be miraculous, things can be changing, things when they shift and change and your trust changes, you realize, oh, I have to change this belief. I have to change, if you build a building and it's okay, second house stability, and a building has to wiggle a little bit, but if it doesn't wiggle a little bit, it might break. And if it breaks, then things were not done correctly. You didn't do the work in Virgo. Things were out of balance, and they weren't allowed to vibrate enough in Libra, so it broke in Scorpio. It broke down, things, the trust level broke down. And that's what has happened is, so the insurance has controlled doctors. That's the other thing. Now the doctors can be authentic, and they can go, my people, third house, or they can go, the fourth house, I can take care of my patients. I can take care of them. But you guys are undermining this because you're being cold. You're being distant. You are not connected. And with Pluto in the third house here, there are difficult conversations that we need to have about humanity and about, about what is going to happen next with insurance. And are we going to get rid of it? Because doctors are like, well, we have to have it. Yeah. I mean, it's good for them to have it, whether this is your car insurance or whatever. And as you get older, as you become a Sagittarius, as you get older, and I'm in this phase of my life, I'm over 50, these are the things that I think about too. I think about my friends and whether I trust them or not. And that also builds that. So doctors are like, do I trust these people that I talk to all the time? When I send an email to the insurance company and they deny it, they say no, and they make a decision in the seventh house that breaks the relationship because Gemini is in that seventh house of the relationship. It breaks that, right? The emotional trust and Cancer is broken. And then life, the extending of life in the ninth house is broken. And when that's broken, you can't repair it. So Virgo breaks down, Libra breaks down, Scorpio breaks down, and now it's back on the doctor. And he's the one that's there dealing with the patients. He's the one dealing with the people. And his relationships are breaking down too. So there is work all around that needs to be done with these things. I hope you guys understood this, because I can spin this stuff in my head very quickly, but I know a lot of people don't follow it that fast. So again, that's why I put the video up, and I appreciate anybody that's still listening, everybody that followed all the way through. This North Node Astrology, you guys know where to find me. Thank you much.